watching at home, just before we get to the next game, something inspired me yesterday. Trouble had a fantastic moment with Irrelevant and Irrelevant's mum. So today, I would like to introduce to everybody at home, Mama Price. That's right, Dagda's mum is in the audience. Berlin, please put your hands together. And Rob, send a message to your mum and your sister for me.
Well, it was my sister's birthday on Friday, so I'm very glad that you managed to get over to say hi. But yeah, it's very nice. They've never seen me cast before, so it's been really nice to actually get to see me cast in person.
It's amazing. Happy birthday to your sister. To Berlin, thank you so much. And also, just because I'm in a spicy mood, the Dagda chance today sounded better than the Fnatic chance yesterday. That's an aside. Let's jump into game as Koi had side selection. They're on the blue side. Rob, to bring it back to her, what are you expecting for change your draft just before we hit the music?
Well, I hope that my face will go less red at some stage. But yeah, as we get into this, I think for Koi, I want to see... Actually, I really like the Tristana pick. I think keeping that priority there is going to be really strong because you can kind of see that Larssen was feeling comfortable in that lane matchup for a lot of it. But what I want to see is Malrang, instead of him putting that attention towards the top side, I want to see him playing off of Larssen in that mid lane and actually trying to use that to then lean into things like Rift Guard in the early stages. Because I think if they'd actually managed to get Larssen up and rolling, it would have given them a little bit more control where they can then shut down some of that pressure from Hansam in the bottom lane.
I think in terms of like the prep we had coming into the series, Larssen was a danger man for us.
Yeah.
And I know, Dagda, you were sharing a lot of clips, a lot of info around how, as far as individual players, he's kind of been the linchpin for Koi.
Yes.
While Szygenda generated that lead, the team weren't able to play around him necessarily as that front man, right? So, and we saw on some of those engagements, some of those gigantic ward plays. Jumping into the draft really quick, Ivan Draven, Rel, and Poppy removed.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see the LeBlanc still go through, or at least become a ban, if G2 don't want to try and give that one across to Larssen. But I still think Maokai up and available. Maokai is incredibly strong, especially because it does give you opportunities to go for something like the Tristana. But I think you take the Trist, you're still happy to go for, okay, the Maokai, but they're going to just flip and reverse it either way. But I really do think that for G2, they were trying to see if they could sneak that Maokai over into the hands of Yike because he's looked incredibly prolific on it. You still have things like the Jace open. So actually, I think taking the Maokai probably makes most sense here.
I mean, it does. And look, if you'll just Spotify me for a minute, it begins, wait a minute, trees open, Yike. It's not your time to shine because there's one or two saplings being thrown your way. Every bush is going to be a flame. Koi, will they be so quiet in game 2 or will it turn around? That's the question. It's a Trundle in the bar.
Well, the Trundle for me is music to my ears because the fact that you get to actually steal away a bunch of those resistances coming through here is fantastic. You make the game really difficult for the Maokai to try and get involved in a lot of these fights, and especially if you can try and get rid of the Maokai's opportunities to look for some of these team fights, it can make things a lot easier. Lets you go for these early skirmishes, and especially with the way G2 are drafting, they're going for an early game comp here.
I also like the tools, the Pillar of Ice as well as the Fate's Call tools to kind of get around that Nature's Grasp. And as far as the music is concerned, it ain't no skibbity bop bop, yes, but at least it's decent looking. And Hansama had a good play in the previous one. He was paired with that Nautilus. I want to see what Mikyx will run this time around, and with the LeBlanc being open and available, not at all surprised to see that locked in here in the hands of Larssen. But in terms of games played, 320 so on record, only 10 of them have been LeBlanc, so it's not exactly a signature pick.
Yeah, we have seen people adapt though to the new patch with this LeBlanc where you're taking minion dematerializer, you're still going the static shiv, and because you demasked the minions in the backline, you're still able to get that wave clear that you expect with the LeBlanc. So still going to see a lot of that into things like the Night Harvester. I just think I would have preferred to see the Tristana again. I know it didn't actually come to fruition in the last game, but you've got the AP damage already. You get a ton of control over side lanes. That safety is still there. But I think the value that you can get out of double AD compositions right now is so strong. Even with things like Kalista still up and available, which can do relatively well in that bot lane, and you just keep it out of the hands of Caps.
I mean, is it too much to stretch? We heard Reckless talking about it. Sorry, we heard Adam talking about it on the analyst desk a moment ago around how Koi's mid game has been challenging. It hasn't been the cleanest. When you've got those double AD comps, you really got to prioritize where you're going to be pushing them, how you get those towers done. We said for like, what, 5, 6, 7 minutes. If Koi could just get that mid tower, it unlocks so much. We weren't able to do it in a timely sort of, nature or sense.
Yeah, and I think it was a mid-game symptom of the early game problems.
There we go. Okay.
When you look at, hey, if we can actually play around Tristana and we can take that mid-tower, then it opens up of, oh, it's very easy for us to rotate this Tristana around. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that game plan here for G2. The only problem that you're seeing is that G2 are heavy AD focused. That's why the high priority is on the Maokai, because it opens up these AD mids. So when you have things like the Ivern gone, who can give on-hit magic damage, and now the Rumble's gone, possibility of something like a Kennen gone as well. I'm curious if BrokenBlade ends up defaulting back towards something like a Gwen here, just to try and keep himself with some sort of AP damage coming out across the board.
Okay, now in terms of these phase 2 bans, Varus removed from the pool, Rumble removed from the pool, top lane is still available, another one removed now, And I think for BrokenBlade, has been one of the players that has been a little bit more, let's say, criticized, a little bit more discussed throughout the course of this summer. Laning phase, kind of bullied, kind of beaten up, but I think fair to say, Malrang spent time there. And of course, with that Leona banned away from the bottom lane, Kalista Pyke, I want to see it.
It'll be sick. It'll be really, really cool to see this, and especially if you're able to get that control and have that same level of aggression in that bottom lane, it'll be nice. But we're actually just going to see him go back towards the Jax. So Jack's another champion that at least has a good amount of AP damage in his toolkit, so not fully surprised to see this. Probably see him go that kind of Zhonya's build as well, just to be like, okay, I got as much AP as possible in my build, and just make it difficult for people like Malrang on this Maokai to try and go in towards that more magic resist route.
And I mean, in terms of the previous game, Renekton was removed from the pool. So that was one of the options that Szygenda could have run into the Jax. It is open and available now, and it's going to be a Sivir locked in into this Kalista bottom lane.
And Comp actually talks about this. There's the Renekton, which is a good answer into the Jax, but when Comp played this in groups, he actually came onto PGL and was like, look, this is something that I just feel very comfortable on, that I feel like I never underperform on, and when the chips are down and we need to get those wins on the board, this is something that I want to bring out. So Comp definitely going to be seeing if you can try and bring that to the forefront. I saw a lot of people experimenting with static Sivir, but when we actually saw Comp come out with this the last time, it was much more of that on-hit build. Sivir also getting some buffs coming into this patch, so I think this could just be the perfect storm here for Comp, as long as he can keep himself safe from what is an incredibly aggressive bottom side.
Comp has a 70% professional win ratio on Sivir, which is absurd at this level of play. There's a few Sivir Comp fans there in the audience. Thank you for the cheers. But of course, the answer into that is going to be Braum from Mikyx. We've known him for a few years. He's going to be ecstatic to play that champion. Let's zoom out really quickly. How do these two respective teams want to win the game?
So when you look towards G2, I think a lot of this is going to come down to side lane pressure, especially with the Jax, trying to see if you can go for that scaling, and then trying to use a lot of your 4-man unit to create pressure with the Tristana. It is a little bit funky because you have so little engage on G2, so you are heavily reliant on Koi either over-aggressing into you or the side lane plays. When you look towards Koi, it is very much a, hey, we would like to team fight. If Maokai could please lock up some people, that'd be wonderful, and let's see what we can do.
I really like the way you phrased it. We would like to team fight. It would be lovely if we could set it up with the tree there in the middle lane with three of our friends. But I don't know if they can. We'll find out. For Koi, this is do or die. If they lose this game, they will play against Team Heretics next week, potentially their final series of the summer season. The final opportunity to get more championship points. They are looking towards season finals. They need to get a win and one more. It's Koi versus G2.
It is insane of me to think that one of these teams is going to be going up against Heretics, who look fantastic in the lower bracket final, whoever loses here. But the fact we also have Fnatic and Mad Lions on the opposite side, this weekend has been insane. And if Koi could bring this back here against G2, this, I think, is probably the most upsets I've ever seen in LEC.
I mean, it would be. The funny thing is, right, I actually had this upsets discussion yesterday. XL beating Mad Lions is not an upset.
True.
Because it was 3rd seed versus 8th, if memory serves.
Yeah.
However,
they did just win.
Remember the summer season, right? If you forget, if you zoom out a little, organizationally speaking, and the bigger picture, the macro picture, yes, it was shocking. But at least in terms of recent performance, the way that series played out is expected. The way Fnatic ended up playing, less so, in my opinion. But as you mentioned, Fnatic Mad next week. The loser today, this series now, will play Team Heretics. And then tomorrow, we've got XLSK versus BDS, and the winner of this series right now. Just before the action starts off, in game number 1, G2 Esports were able to get very good dragon control, play for that salt around 23, 24 minutes. And they're going for a level 1 Braum stun. Advienne going to be able to channel that Q. But the one thing that was intriguing about game number 1 is that Koi were able to get both of the Rift Heralds. Please excuse the sides, I haven't swapped these just yet, so G2's currently blue side, they should be red. The big one for me is Drake percentage played out as expected. Koi got more Heralds than we're used to seeing. But in terms of their objective play, Koi have struggled all summer in getting those objectives.
Yeah, I think as well, a lot of that is coming down to kind of what you touched on is like, when Malrang and Larssen look good, this team looks good. And in 3 out of the 4 wins that we got from Koi, the odd one out being that Vitality game, which was just odd in general, it has been Larssen getting 2 kills at 14 minutes, probably some assists on the side, and then being able to take over the game with Malrang, where they're like, right, this is when we get our Rift Heralds, this is when we get our Dragons, this is when we can start to play for that side lane control and actually look incredibly strong coming into this. But it hasn't always been the case, and I think we got to see it last game as well, where even though Szygenda got the early lead, it's not where Koi are comfortable playing through. And that's not on Szygenda. I actually think Szygenda, like that team fight where he actually managed to flash in over the back line, hits 4 members, like that's Kennan's gold. Like that's exactly what Szygenda needs to do. But it's how the rest of the team follows up. So I think for Koi specifically, I want to see Malrang playing around mid. I want to see him trying to get Larssen this early lead, because having that control allows Larssen to pivot the game into what he expects it to be and take over.
And also as a team with experience, when you've seen how they win, playing around that mid lane is what we've got confidence in them to be able to close a game out, right? Right now, this bottom lane heavily in favor of G2. 10 CS advantage. Mikyx with the backup of Yike as well as Hansama is moving in to steal this red buff away. So Yike has skipped his own blue.
And the interesting thing, this is actually an adaptation that we got from G2. If you cast your minds back to the regular season, Yike on Kha'Zix tried to invade Malrang, immediately gave the Jarvan a kill. So having his help now, his buddies coming along, means that's a little bit more of a successful invade from Yike. But it's exactly what we talked about. Malrang and Larssen are kind of the core of Koi. If you can disrupt that, it's going to work out fantastically for G2. And now you have all this vision control that just lets Hansama and Mikyx have their way with bot side and make it very difficult for Comp and Advienne to really maneuver, because they can't tell where Yike is on the map.
I mean, you can see those wards placed on the minimap in that southern quadrant going to allow Hansama and Mikyx to push. In addition, the jungle being cleared out. Larssen is going to get a good damage there. And Caps actually channeled that W. It looked like he jumped in place, if I read that correctly. Or maybe I just misread the knockup. But regardless, manages to back away. Actually, it was the E. That was right. The little hop is as he's casting the E. That's when we see what was happening there. Nevertheless, got that teleport, can TP back into lane. Unleash TP in 6 minutes time, so if he wants to make a play, can do so. Malrang right now just shadowing Szygenda, who's pushing this wave very aggressively, not anticipating any shenanigans.
It's a similar story though, as Advienne going to be in a lot of trouble here. He'll take a good amount of damage coming off this, but again, you're splitting the map here as G2. Koi did it by themselves in the last game, but now G2 are forcing them to do it, and it means that Hansama and Mikyx are getting a ton of control. They could look to sneak in behind here.
If you're a Koi fan, it's time to go. Yikes! Comp is going to get tagged up. Ghost already flashes away to safety. Dredge line pulls Mikyx back, but the rain stacks are enough. Hansama picks up first blood for G2. They timed that and layered that beautifully. While that's going on, Larssen once again gets tagged by the E from Caps and ends up being a fairly even trade. But well played from G2 in the bottom lane.
Oh, Mikyx got to take a tower shot, but he had to walk away. It's also cool to see the timings that G2 are playing around the rest of the map for a play on bot side. Because if you look at Caps had actually just gone for a reset in mid and TP'd back to mid. So Larssen, who's on reset, is then like, well, what the hell do I do? Do I TP to bot lane to save comp? Or do I lose a ton of gold and tower plates in mid because Caps is just reset and I can't match? And it's these kind of decisions that G2 often force teams into that just suck to play against, and why oftentimes you do see teams make more mistakes against them, because it's G2 kind of manipulating how they want to play.
Do you think it's fair to say throughout the course of summer, that's something we tend to see later in the game? Like as a team, G2 are very creative. Once the towers fall in the mid game, to see it here like 4 minutes on the clock off the first or second clear, it also tells me that G2 have looked at Yike, at Malrang, have looked at Koi's early game, and they found a window with this comp that they punished very, very well.
I think the big thing for G2, and like even from talking to the players, you hear it, a lot of it's like, hey, we're not only trying to win in Europe, we're trying to do a lot better.
Yeah, let's engage forward. Grandmasters, but that Empower, I did not expect that much damage. Szygenda flashes over the wall, BrokenBlade to the wrong side of the rift. I think he may just concede his life. No flash, waiting for the Q. He needs something to jump to. Larssen is trying to cut him off, but it's Szygenda that is in a little bit of trouble. Doesn't get stunned by the level 5 for Yike. Looking for those chains. Larssen hasn't fired it yet. Stun comes out, channels it, locks him down, distorts forward, and one last auto. Larssen's on the board, taking down Yike.
That's the Blitzcrank effect if I've ever seen it. If you don't throw it, they're just going to keep dancing in place. And I mean, Szygenda gets in range to get this point-and-click CC. Now, Mikyx making sure that Comp can't play this bot lane either. And with all that attention topside, still G2 trying to find answers elsewhere.
I mean, it is G2 with a 14 CS and 800 gold lead in the bottom lane. 200 gold apiece for mid and top, and more importantly, 20 CS advantage for Szygenda right now. And I think Malrang has shown his face mid a couple times already, but ultimately Caps is very safe with that W.
The thing is though, this is what we were talking about. When Koi looks successful, it's kills going on towards Larssen. One tick already in that box. And it comes off the back of what was a little bit of a dicey play here. BrokenBlade moves in towards River, spots Malrang, but knows that, hey, I've got push in mid, I've got my Trundle who's going to be in position, and in a 2v2, even though Renekton is incredibly strong on this current patch, you can just burst out one of them, BrokenBlade's able to hop away, and I actually was waiting to see how this was going to turn out, because BrokenBlade was buying a ton of time for the Counter-Strike to come back up, and you can see Szygenda has to play that so safe when BrokenBlade goes back in, but Yike overextends, maybe thinking that that Counter-Strike was going to land, and then gives the kill to Larssen.
Maybe expecting Szygenda to fight. I mean, if it stood and fight Eats in that Counter-Strike, could have bought enough time for the Frozen Domain Chomp to come through. And we just saw a kill earlier today where Chomp walking through the bushes did all the damage. Regardless, 1,000 gold up, G2 Esports 2 kills to 1. BrokenBlade is now the recipient of some love from Malrang, but look at that damage. This version of Jax at least has a weapon. He's going to leap to that back minion and chuck up the Teemo. He is still down, what, 15, 16 odd CS? And a shock Teemo.
Oh, wait a sec.
Look at this. BrokenBlade forces the Dominus out. Slice, dice, ruthless predator. The long-range engage from Malrang and the slam to the face. Koi strike back.
So Renekton has a real weapon. I kind of made him feel a little bit worried about that one. Szygenda immediately getting that kill back. Now, you can see Yike is trying to start up Rift Herald as well to see if he can sneak it away, but he won't be able to finish this off before Malrang comes through. Smite in 5 seconds on Malrang. So G2, they're going to have to give this one up. I don't think they can go for it. Although, to be fair, Szygenda's resetting on top side.
Szygenda's got no TP, was very low, no flash, no Dominus either, right? So, in a lot of trouble. And of course, if you look at the minimap, it is, Dragon is up and available. Couple of wards there from G2.
It was also the roam coming up from Hansam and Mikyx, and might even catch out Larssen here as Mikyx is already staying in the vicinity, but I think it was just too many people on the map missing for Koi, so they decided to back away.
Yeah, nice, very well spotted there. Dagda's all of a sudden, BrokenBlade's kind of decision-making to keep fighting Szygenda is now punished. He's still down a significant amount of CS. Malrang has snuck his way up into this top bush, has got the ultimate available, and Dominus is not there for at least another 50 seconds. BrokenBlade, no E. Wait for the Q. Nature's Grasp out, and Nature's Grasp is going to completely whiff. BrokenBlade just walks right out. I think Malrang had assumed that maybe that W from Renekton would come down earlier.
Straight away, though, we're going to see G2 moving over towards the Dragon. They're like, great, we know exactly where Malrang is. Now he has no ultimate. We can easily take some of these fights. Looks like Yike is even going to steal away the red buff before this even kicks off, while Hansama gets control over bot side.
Okay, well, let's keep an eye on that bottom side, because we've not looked at it for a while. It is a nearly 1,000 gold advantage for Hansama. That is a dive on the cards. While that's happening, BrokenBlade is being focused up top. Caps' TP is just a couple seconds away. BrokenBlade's flash needs some time as well. And he's going to use that E to get to safety. Cross map available. Quickshot catches out in the troll. Subjugate thrown down. Fate's Call flashed away from Pillar of Ice. By some time, here comes Larssen. Advienne's out. That's a hop over the Unbreakable. Hansam is trying to chuck those arrows out. Won't be able to find the Rend. While that's happening, Caps is just taking towers. You cannot abandon mid lane against a Tristana.
And the thing is, you've already lost the wave on bot side as well. Like Advienne, great fancy footwork to get away from that. But unfortunately, it's Comp who actually pays in the end, because he's going to lose out on a lot more of this CS. Another play nearly going across. Hans might get in range just for it.
This feels a little bit. This feels a little bit deja vu. 6 plays to 3. Look at the early game advantages. It's Szygenda that's up 1,500 gold, but is pretty much, you know, Goomba stomped by every other lane, and this Kalista is flying already by the 11-minute mark. It's very reflective of what we saw in game 1.
And this is what makes Hans such a difficult player to play against, because you're like, well, he's played Kog'Maw all year. He's going to go late game. So we're fine going late game. And then he's like, yeah, but Kalista. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Go hard in the early game. You can do with the Draven. Take over. Now you've got the Rift Herald that's going down the mid. Tower gone. Cap's going to steal that one away. And you're getting the Dragon as well. We talked about how Koi, at least in the last game, had some objective control with that Rift Herald.
But that's been completely wiped off the board with the way G2 are playing.
Herald, Dragon, first kill, first tower. Its first win of the series, and it's G2 in control. Flash is available for Caps. He's holding on to it. Fancied potential burst there. It's got that static shift completed, matched by Larssen. First big items. BrokenBlade, despite being down 40 CS, don't think he cares. Caps is just playing a nuisance right now, interrupting Larssen, getting into his head. And look, still not done. If that explosion happens, it's going to interrupt the back as well. Man, that is just chuckles from everyone here in Berlin.
Caps is just giggling to himself saying you have no mana. Like Freak is just living in his head rent-free the entire time. You can't do much, and now Szygenda went too far.
Eyes indeed. Stand behind me plus the flash. Dominus buys some time. Counter-strike, slice and dice. Shocked Teemo face, but Caps can cut him off. Caps needs a new pair of boots. And he wants them to be croc-skinned. Rocket jumps forward, but underneath the tower, BrokenBlade is rooted up. Meow, meow, meow. That's another kill for Koi. Mikyx using the shield to block as much damage as he can. Here comes Larssen. Doesn't have it just yet. Caps flashes forward. Doesn't auto. That's not what you want to see. Oh, no, indeed. G2 are starting to run for their lives. Malrang jumps in, smashes down. Larssen gets one back. And Mickey maybe next. A juicy target for Malrang.
You died!
What are you doing? What is happening? A comedy of errors, but it's beautiful to watch.
Beautiful's a word for it. What am I witnessing? I have no idea what
Dagda, this is why you get paid the big bucks. Explain it to me, please, because I haven't got a fucking clue.
You don't know. So this is where it starts off well, where Mikyx goes for a great flash. BrokenBlade then completely whiffs on actually getting the counter-strike after. Didn't time it well, so he can't go in. And then they go for this terror dive, but you can see where Caps is caught out as he's coming through here. Realizes Malrang's here. Great ult from Malrang to actually catch up BrokenBlade under the tower. There's nothing there to get away. And then Caps, I know you have one more auto onto Larssen, and he thinks, all right, maybe I can make it happen, but just cancels the auto, gets the thumbs up, and at this stage, Malrang is like, right, well, my flash is up, none of them have any escapes, so I'm going to follow through. Like, good flash over the slow from Mikyx, but I don't know what he was thinking here. Like,
Theorize. Larssen will take. I can take the shot. I don't think he knew how much damage he'd take. Oh,
that's so rude.
Okay. Hang on. I have a competitive ruling. First of all, observers, not cool, guys. Not cool. Secondly, Berlin, I heard that chant. Not cool. Funny, but not cool. Okay. Nevertheless.
Also, thirdly, there was no negative gaming in this moment. This is just a regular play of League of Legends.
This is just how things look. And after all of the shenanigans, it is a 1,000-goal lead for G2 Esports. They still have the advantage to speak of. And they are once again setting their sights in this top lane. Hunt Summer brings some clean League of Legends to this game as he's starting to group up with G2
Someone, please.
and take their second tower here against Koi.
G2 managing to get the top side. Look, Hunt Summer now will get control over mid. BrokenBlade doesn't really have mana, but already you can see that Koi backed away. They want to try and play for the Rift Tower on the top side. So I imagine BB would clear the wave, reset, and might join in for the TP play, but this is a little bit of a messy setup just because Koi have push in mid, which again already moving. So I don't really know if G2 can fully contest this.
I'm intrigued to see how these teamfights play out. Nature's Grasp is available, but G2 are split. Larssen's forced to run away for now. The target's going to be Mikyx. Pulled back with that dredge line. Hunt Summer's got the Fate's Call if and when it's needed. The trigger is pulled. Counter-strike locks up a few, and the Nature's Grasp will at least somewhat slow down G2. But it's Koi, they're on the retreat. They've been routed, and they're running for their lives before they get wrecked in the river. Szygenda will slice and dice his way forward. Glacial Fissure is down. BrokenBlade been around long enough for the counter-strike to come back up. And the Rift Herald's like, peace, I'm out. This is nonsense. Hunt Summer finally picks up the kill. The rest of Koi are slowed down. Yike, he's stepping his way forward, looking for that pillar of ice. This fight is so drawn out, and it's Caps that's on the hunt. Can he cancel the auto? Will he land it this time round? Advienne stuck inside the tri-bush. Dredge line goes out. Unbreakable is up. Caps is low, and Larssen hops over the wall. Mikyx's been able to escape for now. Comp cannot get a single auto attack down. Needs to get in range. Needs to do something, but he simply cannot. And the rend is enough from Hunt Summer. G2 win it in the end.
And now G2 will be able to get the Rift out eventually, as they will reset. Larssen, don't do it. Larssen, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh no! He got too greedy. He got too greedy.
And he got eaten for it instead. That's twice today. that we've had Trundles coming out of the darkness with a jump. And both of them used to, or currently play for G2.
I didn't know that I was going to have nightmares after today, but apparently it's now Trundle coming after me that is going to be it.
If you are alone at home tonight in the darkness, Trundle is coming to chomp your ass. Be careful, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. But G2 accelerate this gold lead significantly. And you know the best part, Dagda? Shelly's still up. Riftail's still up. We can do this all again, and that's what I'm here for.
The thing is, though, G2 have a 4,000 gold, like 3,500 gold lead at this stage. You have 2 items on towards caps. You're working up towards your second item as Hans Sama. Like, G2 are so incredibly strong, and all you have is like, Comp has a singular item to his name, a static shiv. Like, you just don't have enough in the tank as Koi. Like, G2 consistently winning out in these skirmishes, getting these early leads. It's again come down to Szygenda has a gold lead, but he's on a Renekton.
Yeah, I mean, tiny correction. Larssen with the shiv, Comp has got that Kraken Slayer. There's just not enough. I mean, what is the combat number? Where's my button? Free 5. It's nearly 4,500 gold in combat stats higher. Average level is about the same, but just in terms of just standing toe-to-toe, and then also in terms of simplicity, how they want to play this out, it's Trundle and Braum running forward with a lot of AoE things to deal with, and very mobile champions in Tristana and Kalista. So as long as G2 are running forward behind that front line, it's actually fairly easy for them to execute.
The problem is, again, that they actually don't have great engage tools. You're like, Trundle Pillar into a Braum Q, maybe into the ult coming for Mikyx, or like Hans Sama just flinging Braum in and saying catch, right? So they're not the best, most consistent ones. But the problem is that Koi's just been running into them every single time, right? Like we saw it on the top side, but you're also getting to a point now where Tristana's massive. Larssen can't deal with this Tristana in the side lane, so she gets to have a field day. You're starting to look at things like Dragon Control coming through for G2. Well, then Koi have to play into it, and that's where G2 are actually going to be able to come alive. So we may, and I say may because this game doesn't make any sense. I was going to say have a slowdown, but it doesn't matter.
Larssen's already used the W. He's got no flash available to him, and this is simply trivial. Subjugate comes up, and the Nature's Grasp is good. Malrang's done a great job, and at the end, will be able to Spider-Man his way to safety. I really thought Larssen was in trouble after he used the W, but I think as you mentioned, Dagda, the initiation tool's kind of awkward. You really need to layer down the Pillar and the Braum stuns and CC to be able to secure anything.
You still get what you want is G2. It was the bot lane tower. Kills were a bit nice, but with the wave coming in now, Cap should be able to take this. Quite TP.
All right, teleport is coming in. Remember, no ultimate there from the Maokai. Advienne gets chunked out by that Tristana. Here comes BrokenBlade. Thwack him with the lamppost. Leap forward. Counter-strike is up. Dominus comes out on the bridge line. At least pulls Yike back. But the stun connects it to Malrang. And their fate is sealed. G2 are hopping, skipping, and jumping all over the fish pond. Koi are being shot in the barrel. And it's the double 80 comp of G2 that is running amok. 6,000 gold, the lead. 4 towers, the advantage for now. And they have absolutely every lane under control. The Herald doesn't even get to land a hit.
It's an inhibitor. They're going to crack the base at bang on 20 minutes and just make sure that they're going to have complete control over this bot side for when Baron is now up and spawned.
Well, Rift Herald will be able to open up the inhib and back this one out. Taking a gigantic chunk. The gold lead accelerates even further. 5-0-1 on this Kalista. 3,000 gold the lead. 2,500 for Caps. Not again, not again, not again. The W's used, but the Winter's Bite misses. There's no one else around, and Larsen's able to escape. Use that.
Larsen's the decoy. I think Larssen might... Oh no, they're not going to. There was a lot of members that were trying to move up towards that Baron. It is 20 minutes. Wouldn't have been the best of times, but if you could have stopped the bases, maybe it could have been a thing, but instead they're just going to immediately try and get on towards BrokenBlade and shut that down, but a little bit of a delay there, so buying some time for Koi. But you can see here, G2, they know exactly how they want to try and play this out. Larssen comes over the wall, but there's no real follow for Advienne, so he's gone too far forward, and now Szygenda kind of finds himself in no man's land as everyone on G2 is now separating him from Koi. He tries to get back to safety, but now you're again split from the team. You're 4 versus 5, and you've got that CC that's available when Koi have already run into G2, and that's the perfect spot for us.
I mean, it's perfect spot indeed. And it has been a unique game of League of Legends. Thank you for that chuckle. But it has been one in which G2 have been able to once again accelerate the lead. As soon as they grasp hold of that early tower dive, that play from Yike, Hans Sama's run away with it. Caps has been roaming and impacted every single lane. I mean, look, 8 out of the team's 11 kills, Caps has been involved in. 9 out of the team's 11 kills, Mikyx's been involved in. And just as an aside, if anybody is a fan of James Bond, 009 was unnamed. I think we should call him Mickey. Just, you know, it appeared in Thunder Pussy was actually killed by that one. I don't know if there's any Bond heads in here. Might be younger than some of you. Maybe Yama will know.
Remember someone said, hey, it's nice to hear Trevor make a reference less than 10 years old.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, you know. But I mean, for Mikyx specifically on this Braum, it was the last pick. It was a champion's come in, and it has found use. He's also one of the primary tools of applying CC. But I think Koi just have been kind of run down in the chaos of this, and with the Dragon in 10 seconds, with Baron open and available for G2, the map, the Rift is their oyster. They can take this, you know, they can play for the Dragon, they can play for the Baron. They've got a gigantic lead, so as long as they play this patiently, they obviously have the tools to use that 1-4 that you talked about in draft. Allow BrokenBlade to push a side lane, and let the rest of the squad kind of keep doing what they've been doing to Koi.
Yeah, I will say BrokenBlade hasn't quite hit critical mass yet because he was set so far behind. Like, he's still 1.3k behind, 2 items completed for Szygenda. So until you kind of get, I think, the Hullbreaker kind of being completed here for BrokenBlade, you're still going to be in a decent spot here for Szygenda. So that's where you've got a little bit of respite for Koi on side lanes. But it's just being picked up by Caps. Like, the amount of damage that this Tristana is going to do. She touches a wave, it disappears. She can leap onto Larssen, completely force him out of the equation. So you have to be incredibly careful. You can see Larssen, like, he's playing so far back in this lane, which is actually opened up for G2 to try and collapse onto the top side, maybe look for a pick and Baron off the back of it.
Of course, Larsen's only got 2 and a bit items completed. That ring is just sitting in his back pocket versus Quickblades, Shiv, and the Kraken. Baron's been started. Larssen has TP. But it's going to be scary. Remember, Kalista plus Ren plus Smite. And the peel for G2 is going to be tough. Already secured. Now with Baron empowered minions, Advienne has been popped in the river. The rest of Koi, they are too late to the party. It is already over. Larssen is now trying to interrupt Yike in the back end, but he's locked against the wall. He's been chomped down. Distorts to safety, and the clone was the target. Now, while Larsen's running for his life, the rest of Koi are split up. With Baron empowered minions, the objective was gone before the fight could even start.
Yeah, there was just no hope. We talked about how safe Larssen had to play on that bot side.
Yeah.
You just opened up Caps to roam entirely up. And when you've got the Kraken Slayer and Caps, the amount of damage that he has, immediately that Baron falls. And again, G2, they now have full control over this map. They can start to get their vision control down on this bottom side as well for Dragon Soul. That's up in just a little bit of time. For Koi, you're kind of left as a head scratcher going like, what the hell were we supposed to do? But again, it kind of feels like trying to play towards Szygenda the top side just wasn't the answer.
I would love to be a fly on the wall as both of these teams review this game after the day is over.
I think part of it comes down to draft is the issue. Like, when you look towards this Kalista, there's just no answer from Comp and Advienne. I think they were caught with their pants down. They just weren't expecting this Kalista to come out as strong. And it's honestly been something that it's been like 2 or 3 patches kind of on the fringe where people have been talking about how strong she can be, but we're really starting to see that G2 have taken that to heart.
And after Kalista game 1, the draft order was Trundle, Kalista, Tristana, right? So G2's first phase really indicated the direction they were going to play.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Koi, the answer of Sivir, Renekton, Maokai was not able to generate the lead. I will say, once again, the laning phase did ultimately go the way of Szygenda and Malrang. I think they had an advantage. Right now, Koi need to find something. They need to pull a rabbit out of their hats. Szygenda's teleported in from behind. Nature's Grasp is thrown down. BrokenBlade hasn't tracked in just yet. 8,000 gold worth of damage stats the difference, and simply nothing they can do.
BrokenBlade.
BrokenBlade looking to engage on the backside. Remember, difficult for G2, but it doesn't matter. If Koi cannot group up and lock down G2, they simply cannot stay alive long enough to have an impact in the fights.
They wanted the rabbit out of the hat. They got the croc that got swatted. And for G2 now, they immediately crack open this base. They'll get the inhibitor. There's the bot inhibitor if they really want to as well. Comp is trying desperately to keep that wave off.
Are they going for the win?
That could be it.
I think they're going for the win. It's a 5 versus 4 for now. Okay, gonna back out instead. Multiple inhibitors, play this by the book. The Dragon Soul is available in 1.5 minutes. Szygenda's gonna be up in 5 seconds. BrokenBlade looks to take the bottom in here. Now, G2 are feeling confident, and I think that they are. They may stick around. Got low health bars. Malrang is back. No ultimate available for him. 7 seconds for Szygenda. And he does have a stopwatch. Golden Croc is available, and it's Yike with the thumbs up as they back away. 11,000 gold to lead. All 3 inhibs down, and a Dragon Soul available to them in 1 minute.
Oh, Mickey! Maybe didn't want that one, but Yike had a great pillar there as they're walking away. Just plonks it up straight as Advienne's hook is coming out and says not today. So Koi, even with the defender's advantage, can't quite get in. As you say, 1 minute until Dragon. Just come back out, push out waves. Mickey might get stopped here.
Might get
But
stopped.
he'll be fine.
Has gone deathless this game. 0-0-11, if I recall correctly. Yike with his pillars doing a great job. And I just think overall, despite the madness of the game, it has been very G2 favorite. I mean, that very first gank at 4 or 5 minutes kind of dictated the tone of this particular game. And unlike game 1, G2, they gained control early and they have not arrested it. I mean, it's one tower that they've conceded. They took both heralds. They've not conceded a dragon. They've got all the dragons this series. It has been a dominant best of 3 thus far.
Yeah, and I think again, it's just Koi not being prepared for the Kalista pick. We see it come out where Yike, really good counter pick into the Maokai, means he's able to get complete jungle control. You already have control for Ansem and Mikyx that bot lane, and all their G2 are doing are going, right, well, we're just going to stack dragons. You can't contest us because we always have bot lane push, always have bot control, and it just makes it very difficult for Koi to try and break up in the game. I think they needed to try and use Szygenda to, hey, maybe we can work for Rift Herald, or maybe we can look for something in the mid lane, but the fact that they end up losing first Rift Herald because they tried to make that play on top side just gave G2 everything that they wanted in this game.
And of course, with G2 pushing it for potentially the last time this game, reminder to everybody watching, tomorrow, 6 o'clock, SK will take on XL in the upper bracket, and it'll be followed by, most likely, G2 taking on BDS. Quickshot will catch one. On the hunt thrown down, and look at Advienne. He is obliterated inside his base. Larssen cannot get in range to build any real damage. Another kill secured for Caps, 2 on the board. Nexus turret number 2 about to fall as well. The second win of the series about to be secured. Larssen being jumped on and shot by Caps, and it's too little, it's too late. G2 have dominated in game 2, and G2 advance to face BDS.
A much more confident win from G2 in that one. Still some funny business as we got in towards the mid game, but G2 going to be a lot more happy with how that one turned out. Dominating, honestly, from start to finish, and every time Koi tried to come at them, it may not have been pretty, but it was G2 coming out on top.
I mean, G2 on top. I think the expected result, I think game 1, I was fairly happy with how Koi approached the early game. I was happy to see them playing Heralds, happy to see them get a foothold. Ultimately, didn't work out. Game 2 descended into madness, and we've had some entertaining games this weekend. But I definitely want to see some of the teams cleaning up their play as we go to the upper bracket games tomorrow. And then we look ahead, Team Heretics versus Koi and Fnatic versus Mad, do or die series next weekend.
Yeah, which is absolutely insane to be thinking of. But coming back to, like, as you say, for cleaning up, G2 was a team that I was looking at because when we look back at the very last game of the regular split, it was very slow. It was very methodical, and it looked like they were kind of going, hey, if we want to try and compete after Europe, we want to look towards Worlds, this is something that we have to try and clean up. And I thought that was the direction we were going. And now looking at this, I have absolutely no idea.
No idea at all. For everybody voting at home for your player of the series at LEC on Twitter, it's Yike, Caps, and Hansama. It's going to be a tough one. Also, do stick around, not only for the interview for PGL, we've got some spicy hotness on the way for our PGL guests that I guarantee you don't want to miss. And, you know, for G2, in terms of expectations coming into the series versus performance, happy to see, you know, any changes. Is there anything we can take away, or is it just kind of more of what we've seen from G2, a little bit creative and funness, and they're allowed to cook a bit?
Yeah, I think it's... So I think we've seen some things which are sick. Like, the fact we're getting Hansama bringing in things like the Kalista and bringing out a style that's quite unique, and I think a pick we haven't seen a lot in other regions is brilliant to see, but I think it is a case of trying to clean up, okay, when we have this, how do we try and smooth into the mid game where we're not just taking very chaotic fights that we just happen to hands diff people rather than actually playing at the map smarter.
I'd love to hear Mikyx explain how they're going to clean up their mid game as I make eye contact. Before they talk about that, though, let's head a bit of trouble. Who's going to talk to Hansama and Mikyx? Sorry to derail that one.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. I'm here with the victorious Hansama and Mikyx. Congratulations on a very quick, stompy victory to all. Now, I'm going to take it from Trevor. I'm going to ask you, Mikyx, what's going wrong with your mid game?
I mean, I think it's like fine-ish. I think we're doing all right. I'm not actually, I mean, these two games felt a little bit more shaky than regular split. I think we did quite a few mistakes that usually we don't do. But overall, I think it was still fine.
Yeah, it was pretty fine, a 2-0 stomp. Now, of course, you guys chose Koi for your first best of series. Why was that, Hansama?
I mean, they're probably the best opponent. I mean, based on the choice we had, just the best opponent, obviously, that I think we could beat the easiest. That's why we just choose Core, I guess. That's just as simple as that.
So you thought it was going to be the easiest one to beat?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
Was that specifically on the 2v2 down the bot lane when you guys are concerned, or was it like overall?
I think just overall, when we played them in regular split, that game felt pretty easy, I think. And the other option was BDS, right? And usually BDS could like get their stuff together. So we had more faith in being better than Koi, I guess. Yeah.
We'll talk about BTS in a little bit because they're your opponents tomorrow. Now, when it comes to transitioning from best of ones to best of threes, what was something that you guys particularly worked on G2 to get your mid game a little bit cleaner?
I mean, I think our mid game actually improved throughout the weeks, months together. I think it wasn't as good when we were playing in the spring and the MSI, and we worked hard on. I guess we were like. I don't know, for example, we were just talking about mid game, looking for some VODs, and I think we reached a lot of nice learnings, conclusions, and I think our mid game have been way better. So that's the goal.
Okay, a little bit broad, but we'll take it. Now, of course, with the whole change from best of ones to best of threes, there was a huge shift in the meta from enchanters to maybe more engaging supports. How do you find this change, Mickey?
I think it's pretty nice. Playing only range support was a little bit boring. Even though, well, I guess Braum is still the same. So, you know, even before I played Braum, now Braum is even better, I guess, because there's mostly engaged supports. So I think it's pretty nice. I think Rail is pretty cool as well, because it was not playable before. So yeah, I think pretty solid meta for us, I think.
Yeah, you get to engage more. BrokenBlade gets to play more more jacks. There you go, more bruisers. Now, you have been a huge advocate for Kog'Maw. Lots of Kog'Maw in the best of ones. Now we're bringing in the Kalista. Can we please bring up the draft from game one? Because you madman, you picked Kalista into Ashe?
Yeah, actually, that was a challenging one. I think Kalista, I mean, that's probably not the best against Ashe, but I was thinking maybe I can still pull it off. And I think we had a lot of pressure in the early bot, so I guess the plan worked. We got a lot of objectives, Dragon, Herald, and I think Kalista is pretty good at setting up the tempo, pace of the game, because I guess she's just strong in lane and a lot of threat for the 3-3 and stuff. So yeah, I still picked it into Ashe.
So a lot of the carriers would avoid that, but did you think you were just better to execute it?
I still think Ashe, Ashe used to be a harder counter to Kalista in the past, but I feel like now you can still win against Ashe as Kalista. Just my thought.
You know what? I want you guys to show me how a draft meeting goes. Because new meta, a bajillion new champions. We've seen Lilias, we've seen Kai'Sa resurface. You brought out Kalista. Now, when there's a new champion that you guys want to implement last minute, and you're like, Dylan, I think, you know, Kalista is really good into Ashe. How do you actually go about saying that in a draft meeting?
Well, usually last minute it doesn't really work with Dylan. Like usually,
okay.
You have to have a bit more practice on it. Like we're more about mastery, not Master Yi, but yeah, mastery on the champion. Just play it over and over again, and play it well. Because yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a problem during MSI. Felt like the Asian team was just much better on their individual champs. So yeah, I think we're doing a pretty good job at that. I mean, our draft meetings still take a very long time, but at least I think we go over every case that is possible. And I think that's why we also got so many wins, because I think draft is very important.
Yes, it is, and we can't wait to see more of your cooking, guys, in your draft meetings. Now, one quick question for you guys. Who do you think is the strongest team so far? We have seen every single one in best of threes. Let's start with you, Hans. Who do you think has looked the strongest? Except you, of course.
I think, well, there's the potential XL and then or SK. I think they are about the same. Well, they won against their opponents 2-0, pretty clean. And Fnatic ended up losing. Surprisingly, I thought that they would come up victorious. So yeah, I would say those XL and SK are looking strong.
I mean, I would say that SK looked better from the two teams. I think their drafts also made a lot of sense. So I think they have a good idea. And yeah, they're played pretty well overall into Fnatic. I mean, Fnatic underperformed, of course, but I think SK played way better than they did regular split. And I think XL was kind of the same. So I think SK is probably the strongest out of the other teams.
Wow, you guys, none of you mentioned BDS, which you're playing tomorrow. I'm gonna say congratulations for your very swift victory and good luck, of course, tomorrow versus BDS. We're gonna throw it onto a very spicy PGL, so grab your milk and watch.
Happy birthday, Marcel.